Download links to the files created in this video are in the description. By the end of the video, we'll have a seamless hypnotic square pattern or hypnotic striped square pattern like the one you see. To get started, let's set up. Go to File, Document Properties, set the display units to pixels, and uncheck Show Page Border. Close Document Properties. Now we're set up, let's come to Create Rectangles and Squares. Press and hold the Control key, click and drag, and create a square with proportion 1:1. The proportion will show at the bottom of your screen. Then create a second rectangle, click and drag, and this time snap it at 1:20. Alright, next let's come over to the Select and Transform tool. On the width and height settings, we want to lock the proportional scaling padlock. Then come over to Object, Fill and Stroke, and we want to make sure that the object has no stroke. Then come over to the width and height setting of the longer rectangle and set the width to 25 pixels and the height should be 500 pixels. Then come over to the square, click it once to show the scaling handles, then click it a second time to show the rotation handles, and click and drag while holding the Control key and snap it at 45 degrees. Then come over to the width and height of the square and set it to 400 by 400. Then click on the long rectangle shape and then click on the square again and come to Object, Align and Distribute, and we want to align the rectangle to the corner, the right edge of the rectangle to the left corner of the rhombus or the rotated square. So what we want to use is relative align right edges to the anchor. Make sure you've selected relative to last selected, since the last selected object is the square, and click on align right edges of object to left edge of anchor. Then center align on the horizontal axis like that. Click on the side to deselect everything. Then click on the rectangle to select it and press Ctrl D to duplicate it. Then shift and click on the rhombus or square, and let's align the rectangle to the right side of the square. Next, click on the side to deselect everything, then click on the rhombus on the right, on the rectangle on the right, and the one on the left. Shift and click to select both of them. And then let's come to Path and set Object to Path. Then come to Extensions, Generate from Path, and Interpolate. Make sure the interpolation steps are set to 7 and the interpolation method is set to 1. Click Live Preview to enable it, and you'll get several stripes like this. Click Apply to apply these stripes, then click Close and press Shift and click on the stripes, and then come to Path, come to Object and Ungroup to ungroup the stripes, then come to Path union to join the stripes together into one object. So that's both the stripes that we started with and the stripes that we created by interpolation. Next, let's click and drag over everything to select everything with the bounding box, and then come to Path, Intersection, and you'll get this shape with the stripes. For this next step, we need to make sure that snapping is enabled, so let's come over to Enable Snapping and enable Snap Nodes, Paths and Handles, and Snap to Cusp Nodes including rectangle corners. If all those are enabled, then let's come back to our striped rhombus and press Ctrl D to duplicate it, and then come over and flip the duplicate horizontally on the Select and Transform tools, on the Select and Transform toolbar, and then click and drag the duplicate and snap it onto the top corner. Snap the left corner of the duplicate onto the top corner of the original rhombus. Then let's duplicate these two again, so Shift and click to select both of them, then press Ctrl D to duplicate them, then click and drag to bring duplicates down, and we want this one that's at the top in fact to come to the bottom, so we want this one to come here, snap it there, and then the one that's at the bottom to go to the top and snap it on there. Let's click and drag over everything to select them all. And you should have a round number on the width and height if you snapped everything onto each other correctly. So I've got 775 by 800 on the width and height. That looks good. Next thing, we're going to come to the Draw Bezier Curves and Straight Lines tool, and then come to this corner here, the left corner of the top rhombus. Click there, and then click on the right corner, click on the bottom corner of the right rhombus, click on the left corner of the bottom one, and then go back to the top to close the shape that we're drawing. Then let's switch to the Select and Transform tool and come over to Fill and Stroke, and we want to disable the stroke paint, so no paint or no stroke, and then give it a flat color on the fill, and also make sure that the dimensions of this square are 400 by 400. If you've got that right, then let's come over to the Select and Transform tool, then click and drag over everything to select everything. Then you want to press Shift and click to remove the new black square from the selection, and then come over to Path and Combine. Sorry, I was supposed to do this before creating the square. So we want to combine these into the rhombuses into one shape, and then once we've combined the rhombuses, Shift and click on the new square to select both the rhombuses and the new square, and then go to Path, Intersection, and you'll get this shape here. And this is our basic tile or foundation tile for creating the striped pattern. So we can press Ctrl D to duplicate this tile, and snap a duplicate onto the right of the first one. Select both of these tiles, press Ctrl D and snap the duplicates on the bottom. Let's zoom out a bit and click and drag over these two. Press Ctrl D to duplicate them. Click and drag and snap them onto there. Click and drag a bounding box to select everything. Press Ctrl D to duplicate. Click and drag and snap onto the bottom like that, and Control and scroll to zoom out, and Shift and scroll to pan left and right like that. So that's our basic repeating pattern. This you can use as a website background or for your phone wallpaper or whatever. If you just drop this single tile into a web page, you can actually automatically repeat this tile on a website background.